The council room was full of tension, the air thick with the weight of unspoken challenges. Lieutenant James Carter, the young but seasoned human diplomat, sat at the end of a long, polished table. Across from him sat the representatives of the Drak'ta Empire, a race of powerful war-driven aliens with deep, dark eyes and sharp, reptilian features. Even sitting still, they looked ready for battle, their dark armor reflecting their intimidating nature. The Drak'ta were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors, a race that almost no one dared to challenge. But humanity, a relatively new species to the galactic arena, had not only stood its ground against the Drak'ta but had pushed back enough to bring them to the negotiation table. The Drak'ta were running low on resources after countless wars and could no longer afford endless conflict. For the first time in their long history, they needed peace, even if it meant negotiating with humans. As the lead Drak'ta diplomat, General Thakrox, spoke in his deep, gravelly voice, his words seemed to echo in the silent room. To bring lasting peace, the Drak'ta Empire has agreed to this treaty. But there is one condition. He paused, as if weighing his next words. Carter noticed a flicker of uncertainty on Thakrox's face, an emotion he'd rarely seen in the typically stoic Drak'ta. "What is this condition?" Carter asked, trying to keep his voice steady. He had faced Drak'ta warriors in battle before, but diplomacy was another kind of war, one that required a different type of courage. Thakrox took a deep breath and spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully. "To ensure this peace is respected by both sides, our queen, Alzira, will be given to the humans. She will become a symbol of trust between our races." Carter's mind raced. Queen Alzira. The Drak'ta queen was legendary, known for her intelligence and strength, as well as her fierce loyalty to her people. She was a symbol of power, almost a myth among humans. But now, according to this strange demand, she was to be handed over to humanity like a possession. I'm not sure I understand," Carter replied, choosing his words carefully. "You want to give us your queen, to make her ours?" The idea was unsettling. No matter how much humanity wanted peace, the thought of owning someone, let alone the leader of an entire species, felt wrong. Thakrox continued, his tone flat, but his eyes intense. "The Queen's loyalty to our people is unbreakable. Her presence among your people will show that we trust you enough to place our greatest leader in your hands. She will be a bridge between us." The council members exchanged glances, some looking surprised, others worried. Carter felt their eyes on him. He knew what they were thinking, that this could either secure peace for generations or lead to more war. But there was no easy answer here. Carter leaned back in his chair, his mind racing through the implications. If he accepted this condition, Queen Alzira would be handed over to humanity. But if he refused, there was a chance that peace would be lost. Humanity had fought too hard, lost too many lives, to let that happen. "Do we have her consent in this matter?" he asked, trying to understand if the Queen had agreed to this plan. Thakrox's eyes hardened. "Our Queen is bound to the will of her people. She will honor this treaty, even if it means surrendering herself." Carter felt a pang of unease. Queen Alzira, a powerful leader, had been forced into this position, her personal wishes ignored for the sake of political peace. Yet the Drak'ta saw it as their ultimate show of trust, a sacrifice made to ensure peace. After a long silence, Carter nodded slowly. "Very well. I accept this term. But know this, I will treat her with the respect she deserves. She will not be a possession, but an honored guest. Humanity will not dishonor her sacrifice." The Drak'ta representatives nodded, seeming to approve of his response. The treaty was signed, and the decision was final. Queen Alzira would soon arrive on Earth, not as a conqueror or a prisoner, but as a symbol of hope. Carter couldn't shake the feeling, however, that the journey ahead would be far more complex than anyone realized. As the meeting concluded, Carter felt a strange mixture of dread and curiosity. What kind of woman was Queen Elzira? And what would this unexpected alliance mean for the future of their two worlds? Queen Elzira's fury burned like fire. She stood in the center of her grand chamber, her sharp, dark eyes narrowed with anger. She was the queen of the Drak'ta, the fiercest warriors in the galaxy, and now she had been handed over to a human as part of a peace deal. The idea was beyond humiliating. It was a betrayal by her own people. The door opened, and in walked Lieutenant James Carter. Dressed in his formal uniform, he looked calm, his gaze steady as he met Elzira's furious glare. He was surprised at how tall she was, towering over most human men, her scaled skin gleaming under the lights. Her presence was powerful, and despite the anger in her expression, Carter couldn't help but feel a sense of respect. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. Elzira's gaze was cold, her expression hardened. To her, Carter was nothing more than a representative of a weaker species, but now, by the laws of the treaty, she was in his possession. A thought made her blood boil. Carter spoke first, his voice calm. "Queen Elzira, I know this situation is difficult. I understand if you feel anger or even resentment. I didn't ask for this either, but our leaders believe this is the only way for peace." Elzira let out a low, humorless laugh, the sound echoing around the chamber. "Peace," she sneered, her voice full of bitterness. "You think my people's loyalty can be bought with my life? I am a queen, not some trinket to be handed over to the highest bidder." Carter held her gaze, undeterred by her anger. "I didn't come here to treat you like a trinket. I came to ensure peace. You're here as a respected ambassador, not a prisoner. You are still Queen Elzira, leader of the Drak'ta." Elzira studied him, surprised by his steady response. Most humans she had met before were either terrified or submissive in her presence. This human, however, did not back down, even when facing her wrath. It was unusual, but that didn't mean she trusted him. "You speak of respect, human, but you do not understand the honor of the Drak'ta. I am here because my people wished it, but do not think for a moment that you have power over me." She took a step closer to him, her eyes blazing with defiance. "I may be bound by this treaty, but I am still free in my mind and spirit." Carter nodded, recognizing her pride. "I wouldn't expect anything less, Queen Elzira, but I do want you to know that you are not alone. This alliance is for the benefit of both our people. My duty is to ensure your safety and dignity, even if you don't believe me yet." Elzira's expression softened just slightly, though her sharp gaze didn't waver. She couldn't tell if he was speaking the truth or simply trying to calm her down. Humans were a strange species to her, full of contradictions. They were weaker in strength but strong in will, vulnerable yet courageous. And this Carter, seemed different from the others she had encountered. "Very well, human," she said slowly, her voice dripping with disdain. "Let us see how you handle a warrior queen. If you expect obedience, you will be disappointed. I will not bow, and I will not be tamed." Carter smiled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I wouldn't dream of trying, Your Majesty, but I do believe we can work together. We might even learn something from each other." Elzira gave him a sharp look, her eyes narrowing. She was not used to anyone speaking to her as an equal, least of all a human. But Carter didn't flinch. For the first time, she felt a strange sense of curiosity, though she would never admit it. "Perhaps," she muttered, her tone neutral. "But remember, Lieutenant Carter, I am here for my people, not for you or your kind." "Understood," Carter replied, bowing slightly. "And for what it's worth, I respect that." As he left the room, Elzira watched him, her mind racing with questions. Who was this human who dared to look her in the eye? And why did he speak of respect instead of control? The journey was just beginning, and she sensed that it would be unlike anything she had ever experienced. Elzira took a deep breath, steeling herself. Whatever lay ahead, she would not yield. She would face this with the same strength that made her a queen. and perhaps discover the true nature of humanity. Queen Alzera sat in the viewing bay of the human transport ship, gazing out at the stars. The hum of the ship was steady, a quiet reminder that she was far from home and on her way to Earth, the human planet. The thought filled her with unease. She was used to commanding great warships, leading fleets into battle, and controlling entire planets. But here, on this human ship, she was a guest, or worse, a symbolic gift handed over by her own people. Lieutenant Carter entered the room, noticing Alzera's tense posture. He had given her as much space as possible on this journey, understanding that she needed time to adjust to the strange terms of the treaty. But he couldn't ignore the fact that they were both in uncharted territory, and that it would be difficult for both of them. "Your Majesty," Carter said respectfully, nodding as he approached her, "we'll be arriving on Earth soon. I thought you might want to prepare for the landing." Alzera turned to him, her dark eyes narrowing slightly. "Prepare? I am a queen human. I do not need to prepare to face your planet." Her voice held a trace of bitterness, but Carter sensed something more, a touch of sadness. He nodded, unfazed. "Of course, Queen Alzera. I only meant that Earth may be different from what you're used to. It's a place of great diversity, many different landscapes, cultures, and ways of thinking. I thought perhaps you'd like some context." Alzera scoffed, though there was a hint of curiosity in her eyes. "I have seen 1,000 worlds, human. What could Earth possibly show me that I have not already seen?" Carter gave her a calm smile. "You might be surprised, Your Majesty. Earth is unique. We may be weaker in physical strength than your people, but humanity has found ways to survive, and even thrive, in countless environments. We value freedom and creativity. It has allowed us to adapt and learn quickly, even against stronger enemies." Alzera raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite herself. She had always seen humans as fragile and weak, yet their resistance had surprised the Drakta enough to bring them to the negotiating table. Perhaps there was more to these humans than she'd assumed. When the ship finally landed, Alzera was led out onto Earth's soil for the first time. They arrived in a secluded area, surrounded by green trees and rolling hills. She looked around, surprised by the sheer natural beauty of the place. The air felt fresh, the sunlight warm on her scaled skin. This was a far cry from the cold, metal walls of her warships or the harsh landscapes of Drakta territory. Carter noticed her reaction and gestured toward the scenery. "This is just one part of Earth, but it's special. We call it a forest, where trees grow, animals live freely, and people come for peace." Alzera didn't reply, but she felt a strange sense of calm in this place. The Drakta had their own worlds, mostly rocky and barren, focused on utility rather than beauty. Here, nature seemed alive, as if Earth itself was a living, breathing being. As they walked, Carter explained more about human life, their cultures, and their ways of thinking. He told her about Earth's ancient history, its art, and its struggles. Alzera listened, silently absorbing the information. She had always thought of humans as soft, but now she realized that they were resilient. Their ability to find strength in vulnerability was something she had never truly understood. They eventually arrived at a small human settlement where people had gathered to see her, their expressions a mixture of awe and fear. Alzera held her head high, unwilling to show any weakness in front of these people. But as she observed them, she saw not just fear, but also curiosity, hope, and even admiration in their eyes. A child stepped forward, offering her a simple flower. Alzera paused, surprised by the gesture. She had never been given a gift from someone so small and vulnerable. She accepted it, feeling a strange warmth at the child's innocent smile. Carter watched her reaction, noting the shift in her expression. Humanity values connection, Queen Alzera. Even in our weakest, smallest members, there is a desire to connect and understand others. That's part of our strength. Alzera didn't reply but felt her own assumptions begin to waver. Perhaps humans were more than she had thought. This world, full of life and diversity, stirred something unfamiliar in her heart. She couldn't help but wonder if there was more to learn, both about humans and herself. As they continued, she felt her anger and resentment start to ease, replaced by a growing curiosity. For the first time, Alzira realized that this journey to Earth might be about more than just a political alliance. It might be the beginning of a discovery of both her people and the humans she had underestimated. The quiet peace of Earth didn't last long for Queen Alzira. Only a few days after her arrival, alarms blared throughout the human base. Carter rushed into her quarters, his face tense. "Your Majesty, we're under attack," he said quickly. "A Drak'ta faction that opposes the treaty has followed us to Earth. They believe rescuing you will restore the honor they think was lost in the peace treaty." Alzira's expression hardened. She knew exactly who these rebels were, warriors who refused to accept peace with humanity, seeing it as a betrayal of Drak'ta strength. Her heart burned with frustration. These were her people, and yet they chose violence over wisdom. "They do not understand," she said, her voice quiet but sharp. "To them, peace is weakness. They would rather fight until the last drop of blood than live side by side with humans. But their loyalty is misplaced. If they truly respected me, they would honor my decision." Carter nodded, understanding her frustration. "We need to evacuate you to a safe location. If they find you, they may force you to join their cause." Alzira shook her head, her expression fierce. "No, I will not hide like a frightened animal. I am their queen, and they must see that I will not bend to their foolishness." She looked directly at Carter. "Let me fight alongside your people. Let me show them that I am not a prisoner here, but a true ally." Carter hesitated, knowing the risks, but he saw the fire in her eyes. She was a leader, a warrior who would not abandon her honor. "Very well," he agreed, "but stay close to me. Our soldiers are brave, but they've never fought Drak'ta warriors like these." As the battle began, Carter and Alzira moved together through the chaos. Alzira fought with a fierce grace that left the human soldiers in awe. She struck with precision and strength, her movements quick and efficient, honed from years of war. For the first time, the humans saw the full power of their new ally, and it was both terrifying and inspiring. In the middle of the battle, a Drak'ta rebel called out to her, his voice filled with both respect and defiance. "Queen Alzira, we have come to free you from the humans. You do not belong here among these weak creatures. Return to us, and let us restore the Drak'ta Empire's honor." Alzira turned to face him, her voice strong. "Is it honor you seek, or blood? I made this choice to protect our people. Peace with humanity is our future, not endless war. Stand down and join me in this alliance." The rebel sneered, disbelief in his eyes. "You have fallen under their spell, blinded by their weakness. If you will not return willingly, then we will take you by force." Before he could move, Carter stepped between Alzira and the rebel, his weapon ready. "If you want her, you'll have to get through me," he said, his voice steady despite the danger. The rebel looked at Carter with disdain, as if he were nothing more than an insect. But Alzira saw something different. Carter was risking his life for her, standing against an enemy far stronger than himself. She felt a strange sense of pride, seeing his courage. Together, Alzira and Carter fought side by side, each covering the other's blind spots. They moved like a single force, surprising even the rebels with their coordination. Alzira's strength and Carter's resilience balanced each other, forming a partnership that neither had expected. Slowly, the tide of battle began to turn. The human soldiers, inspired by the sight of their diplomat fighting alongside the Drak'ta queen, found new strength. The rebels, realizing that Alzira truly stood with humanity, began to falter, their confidence shaken. At last, the rebels retreated, beaten and bewildered. The humans cheered, their voices rising in a triumphant chorus. Alzira looked around, seeing the respect in their eyes. She had proven herself, not only to the humans, but also to her own people. She had fought not as a prisoner or a queen, but as a warrior and an ally. Carter, catching his breath, looked at her with admiration. "Thank you, Queen Alzira. I don't think we could have done this without you." Alzira nodded, a rare hint of warmth in her gaze. "You are brave, Lieutenant Carter, braver than many of my own warriors. Perhaps there is more strength in humanity than I realized." As the humans celebrated their victory, Alzira felt a strange, unfamiliar feeling, a sense of belonging. She had come to Earth as part of a treaty, but now, for the first time, she saw herself as part of something bigger, something that could unite two worlds. The rebels would return, she knew, but now she was ready. She would stand with humanity, not out of duty, but out of a newfound respect, and perhaps even hope. The days following the battle were busy and full of change. Queen Alzira walked through the human base, noticing how the humans greeted her with respect. Some saluted her, while others simply nodded in admiration. It was a strange feeling, being acknowledged not as an outsider, but as a trusted ally. She could see that the humans looked at her differently now, not just as a powerful Drak'ta queen, but as someone they could depend on. Lieutenant Carter approached her in the corridor, a pleased smile on his face. "Your Majesty," he began, "the Human Council has recognized your bravery in the battle. They want to hold a ceremony to honor you." Alzira's eyes narrowed. "A ceremony? I do not need praise or medals, Carter. I did what was necessary to protect my people's future, just as any leader should." Carter nodded, understanding her reluctance. "I know you're not here for awards, but it's our way of showing respect. It's not just about medals. It's about acknowledging the bond you've created with us." Alzira fell silent, her expression thoughtful. The idea of a bond with humans still felt strange, even though she could no longer deny that she felt something for these people, a mix of respect, admiration, and even a strange sense of loyalty. She hadn't expected to feel this way, but each day on Earth had shown her a side of humanity she hadn't anticipated. "All right," she finally replied. "I will attend your ceremony, but on one condition." Carter raised an eyebrow, curious. "And what's that, Your Majesty?" "I want to address your people," she said firmly. "They should hear from me why I've chosen to stand by humanity. Perhaps then, my own people might hear my words and understand my choice." Carter agreed, and arrangements for the ceremony were quickly made. The day arrived, and a large crowd gathered to see the Drak'ta Queen. Humans of all kinds filled the space, some in military uniforms, others from different walks of life. They looked up at Alzira with interest, their faces filled with awe and respect. As she stepped onto the platform, she felt a brief moment of hesitation. She was used to addressing Drak'ta warriors, not humans. But as she looked out over the crowd, she reminded herself that this was what she had chosen, an alliance with humanity, for the good of both worlds. She took a deep breath, her voice strong and clear. "Humans," she began, her gaze steady. "When I first arrived, I saw you as weak. I believed that your people were fragile, easily broken, and soft. I thought you could not possibly understand the strength and discipline of the Drak'ta." There was a murmur in the crowd, but they listened closely to her every word. "But I was wrong," Alzira continued, her voice carrying a tone of respect. "You are not weak. You have a strength that I did not see at first, a strength of spirit, a courage that defies logic. I have watched you face fear and overcome it. I have seen you stand for each other, even when the odds were against you. And I have come to understand that this strength, this resilience, is what makes humanity powerful." The humans in the crowd exchanged glances, a new sense of pride rising among them. Alzira's gaze softened as she went on. "The Drak'ta seek strength, honor, and loyalty above all else, and I have found these qualities in you, though they appear differently from how they do in my people. This alliance, this peace, is something I now believe in, not because it was forced upon me, but because I see its value." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the air. Alzira felt a strange warmth in her chest, a feeling she rarely experienced. She was proud of her people, the Drakta, but now she felt a sense of pride in humanity too. After the speech, Carter approached her, his eyes full of admiration. "That was incredible, Your Majesty. I think you reached a lot of people today. Maybe even some of your own rebels, if they're listening." Alzira nodded thoughtfully. "I hope so. But I know that changing the hearts of my people will not be easy. They are proud, and they will not easily accept this alliance. But I am willing to face their doubts, just as I faced them myself." Carter smiled, impressed by her dedication. "You're not just a queen. You're a bridge between two worlds. And I think you're exactly what we need to make this peace last." As the crowd began to disperse, Alzira felt a new sense of purpose. She had come to Earth as a symbol of peace, but now she felt like something more. A leader for both humanity and the Drakta. And for the first time, she allowed herself to hope that this alliance might truly bring a lasting peace. The ceremony had made Queen Alzira a respected figure among humans, but peace was still fragile. That evening, Alzira received disturbing news. A group of Drakta rebels, more determined than ever, had landed on Earth and were spreading word that she was a traitor to her own people. They encouraged other Drakta and even some humans to resist the alliance, calling her weak for siding with humanity. As the news spread, tension filled the air. Some humans began to doubt her intentions, worried that she might be a threat if the rebels decided to act. Alzira could sense the wary looks from people who, just hours before, had cheered her name. Lieutenant Carter found her alone in the garden near the base, looking at the stars. He knew she was troubled, but he admired the calm she displayed even when facing threats from her own kind. "Your Majesty," he said softly, coming to stand beside her. "The rebels' message is spreading fast. People are starting to question the alliance, and some even fear you. They worry you might turn against us if things get worse." Alzira clenched her fists, frustration evident on her face. "I expected resistance from my people, but not this. Poison," she said bitterly. "They call me a traitor for wanting peace, yet they bring nothing but destruction. They do not understand that true strength lies in unity, not endless war." Carter nodded, feeling the weight of her struggle. "It's hard to change minds, especially when fear is involved. But you've already shown many humans what you stand for. Maybe now is the time to show them again, more clearly than ever." Alzira looked at him, her eyes determined. "How?" Carter thought for a moment. "There's a village nearby, a peaceful place where humans and Drakta civilians live together. The rebels have threatened to attack it as a warning against the alliance. If you protect it, your actions will speak louder than any words." Alzira's eyes narrowed, her resolve hardening. "Then we will go to this village. I will defend those who want peace, even if they are few. Let the rebels see that I will not back down, no matter the cost." Without delay, Carter and Alzira gathered a small group of soldiers and traveled to the village, arriving just as night fell. The village was quiet and dark, the villagers hiding in fear of the rebels' threat. Alzira walked among them, her presence strong and reassuring. She spoke to both humans and Drakta, encouraging them to hold on to hope and trust in the alliance. Some looked at her with awe, while others still held fear in their eyes, but her courage gave them strength. Soon, the sound of the rebel ships echoed through the air. They descended upon the village, their weapons ready, confident in their numbers. Alzira stepped forward, placing herself directly in their path. She stood alone at first, but then Carter and the human soldiers moved to her side, forming a line of defense around the village. One of the rebel leaders, a fierce warrior named Grak, shouted at her from across the line. "Queen Alzira, step aside and let us cleanse this place. It is you who have betrayed the Drakta, choosing weakness over strength, peace over honor." Alzira met his glare, her voice firm and unwavering. "Strength is not found in senseless bloodshed, Grak. If you wish to restore honor, do so by protecting our people, not tearing them apart." Grak laughed coldly. You have grown soft, blinded by the humans' ways. If you won't fight for the Drakta, then you're no queen of ours." Without warning, Grake and his warriors attacked. Alzira braced herself, fighting with skill and determination. Carter and his soldiers held their ground beside her, fighting fiercely to protect the village. Alzira's movements were sharp and decisive, each strike filled with purpose. The villagers watched in awe as she defended them, risking her life to protect both Drakta and human alike. The battle was fierce and exhausting, but Alzira's determination didn't waver. Slowly, the rebels began to fall back, realizing they could not defeat a queen who fought with such unbreakable resolve. Grok, wounded and furious, snarled at her before retreating. "This isn't over, Alzira. You may have won today, but the Drakta will never accept peace with these humans." As the rebels disappeared into the darkness, Alzira stood tall, her breathing heavy but her spirit unshaken. She looked around at the villagers, seeing relief and gratitude in their eyes. They had witnessed her commitment firsthand, and she knew that her actions had spoken louder than any speech could. Carter approached her, a proud smile on his face. "You didn't just protect this village, Your Majesty. You proved to both your people and mine that peace is worth fighting for." Alzira nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She had come to Earth as part of a treaty, but now her loyalty to this alliance was forged in battle. The rebels would return, but Alzira was ready. She would face whatever came next, standing firmly by humanity's side. The days following the attack on the village, word of Queen Alzira's bravery spread far and wide. Both Drakta and humans heard the story of how she had fought to protect both species, standing side by side with her human allies. Her actions left an undeniable mark, but peace was still fragile. The rebels had been defeated for now, but they hadn't given up, and Alzira knew they would return, stronger and more determined. Late one evening, Alzira stood outside the human base, gazing up at the stars. Those stars, once only symbols of conquest and war, now seemed different. They held new possibilities. She knew that, if peace was to truly last, both her people and the humans would need to make a final public stand together. Lieutenant Carter approached her, noticing the look of resolve on her face. "Your Majesty, you look deep in thought," he said gently. Alzira turned to him, a small determined smile on her face. "Carter, if we want this peace to last, it's time for both our people to see what we're willing to risk for it. I think it's time we go to the Drakta Council." Carter's eyebrows raised in surprise. "You mean you want to go back to your people? With me? But the Council might see our alliance as an even greater threat if we arrive together." "They might. Attack." Alzira nodded. "Yes, they might. But they need to see that I believe in this alliance and that I trust you with my life. Only then will they understand that I'm committed to peace with humanity." Carter's expression turned serious, but he understood her reasoning. "Then let's go. I'll follow you wherever you need me." The next day, they set off for the Drakta homeworld, their journey tense and filled with silent determination. When they arrived, they were met by the Drakta Council, a group of powerful elders who ruled Alzira's people. Their expressions were cold and suspicious as they saw her arrive with a human by her side. One of the council leaders, Elder Kron, spoke first, his voice dripping with disapproval. "Queen Alzira, you bring the human into our sacred council chamber. Have you lost all sense of honor?" Alzira met his gaze without fear. "Elder Kron, I bring this human because I trust him. He is my ally, and he has proven his loyalty in battle. He and his people have shown strength in ways we never expected." Kron sneered. "Strength? You call this weakness strength? They have softened your heart, Alzira. You once led our warriors into countless victories, yet now you come here asking for peace." Alzira stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. "Yes, I ask for peace. I have seen the strength of humanity, a strength that lies not just in power, but in resilience, unity, and sacrifice. Fighting endless wars will only bring ruin to both our worlds. But together, we can build something greater. The other council members murmured among themselves, some shocked by her words, others uncertain. Carter, feeling the weight of the moment, decided to speak. "I know many of you see us as weak," Carter began, his voice respectful but firm. "But humanity has survived countless challenges. We have learned to adapt, to rebuild, and to thrive, even when the odds were against us. Queen Alzera is not weak for standing with us. She is wise. She sees that together, our people can be stronger than we ever were alone." The council members looked at each other, some visibly moved, while others remained skeptical. Kron's voice cut through the murmurs. "You ask us to abandon the ways of the Drakta, to give up our pride, our honor, for this alliance? No, I cannot accept this." Alzera turned to Kron, her gaze unwavering. "Then you are blind, Elder Kron. True honor lies in protecting our people, not in clinging to old grudges. If you cannot see that, then perhaps it is time for new leadership, a new way forward." A tense silence fell over the chamber. Alzera had challenged a powerful elder openly, something unheard of in Drakta tradition. But before Kron could respond, other council members began to nod, slowly, hesitantly. They saw her commitment, the strength of her belief, and the bravery it took to stand before them with a human by her side. One of the younger council members finally spoke. "Perhaps Queen Alzera is right. Perhaps peace is the true path to honor and strength." Kron's expression tightened, but he saw the shift in the room. Reluctantly, he gave a nod of respect. "Very well, Queen Alzera. We will allow this alliance, for now. But know this, we will be watching. If the humans betray us, the Drakta will answer with fury." Alzera inclined her head, accepting his words. "I understand, Elder Kron. But I have faith in this alliance, and I believe that our people will one day see its worth." As Alzera and Carter left the council chamber, both felt a sense of relief and triumph. They had taken the first steps toward a future where humans and Drakta could stand side by side. It wouldn't be easy, and there would still be challenges, but they had planted the seed of peace. Alzera looked at Carter, her gaze filled with gratitude and newfound hope. "Thank you, Carter, for standing by me, even when it was dangerous." He smiled, a warm, steady smile. "It was my honor, Your Majesty. Here's to a future where we can finally stand as one." And with that, they left together, ready to face whatever came next, united in purpose and in hope.